Alright, we're going to do a false flag Liberty stamp video. You can go to the post office and get these stamps. And I'm calling it a false flag because you're losing more of your liberties. Liberty, the freedom from despotic government or rule, freedom from foreign rule, independence, freedom from bondage, captivity, or physical restraint, freedom from external control or interference, obligation, freedom to choose. Nowadays, if you don't agree with Obama, he just labels you as a terrorist. And he could put you in a FEMA camp to re-educate you to his socialistic views. And that's not liberty. He can detain you without a trial. He can even kill you without due process now. You can't be liberated by a communist. Listen to these creepy headlines, attacks on your liberty. 3 girls busted for illegal lemonade stand. Man arrested for trying to save his drowning dog. Couple arrested for refusing to pay a tip. White guy gets life for stealing a 50-cent donut. Boy suspended for wearing anti-Obama t-shirt. Minnesota man arrested for trespassing on his own land. Obama signs bill in secret, making free speech illegal. And I could probably spend all day reading headlines like this. Listen to this one. A father gets arrested for trying to pick up his own child at school. Mountain man arrested for trying to feed himself. Alright, well, this is a real big one, how the schools are being indoctrinating by Muslims. And of course, if you say anything, you're a terrorist. Even though you've been in this country longer than Obama, he labels you as a terrorist because you don't agree with his Muslim attributes. And by the way, he is a Muslim.
Interestingly enough, in recent years, American public schools have been indoctrinated with the Muslim religion.
Public schools across America are under siege by radical Islam.
Studies have shown over 500 historical errors in public school textbooks, giving an Islamic slant to our youth. As a result, our youth are subject to the following teachings: learning to become a Muslim, fasting for Ramadan, learning the 5 pillars of Islam, memorize verses of the Quran, adopt a Muslim name, stage a jihad, war against non-Muslims. Well, how did this happen? The ACLU, the American Muslim Council, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and the Clinton administration joined together and made a clause that opened the door to Muslim teachings, while attacking anyone who speaks of the Christian religion in public schools.
The high school has had 10 commandment plaques in every classroom, but new tonight the district has decided it's time to take them down.
Isn't that wonderful? In your own country here, the greatest country on earth, you're losing your liberties because of these evil people.
Hence, you see the courts backing the Muslim agenda when, for example, a school in California is teaching their students a 3-week course which essentially requires them to become a Muslim for that period of time. This also very well explains why my ministry has been under incessant attack for bringing a moral and constitutional message to public schools in our country. And to prove my point, a representative from the American Muslim Council, Abdul Rahman Alamoudi, today serves a 23-year prison sentence for being one of the top fundraisers of Al-Qaeda in the United States of America. In addition, there are over 225 Muslim schools in the United States and around 50,000 children who are being taught to, and I quote Brigitte Gabrielle with Act for America, foster an environment of hate, loathing, and resentment towards Western culture, Christians, Jews, Shiites, secular Muslims, and non-Muslims. America, why is this happening? In a nation that was founded upon Christian principles, whose students were nurtured in a biblical worldview? Could it be that Christians became apathetic, went to sleep, and allowed this radical agenda to creep in unnoticed by the public at large? Muslim infiltration into the universities? Saudis have taken advantage of the Title VI program that our government implemented after World War II for the education of young Americans about foreign cultures and languages. How? Well, they are using their riches from oil to pump millions of dollars into America's universities to appoint Arab professors in departments such as political science, Middle East study.
One of the things that I really love is that I get to teach what I love to teach. So in addition to teaching American literature and world literature, I've also had the wonderful opportunity to develop courses like Arab women writers and Arab and Islamic feminisms.
So on and so forth, who are brainwashing our students with an anti-American point of view. They teach that we are the problem, that our foreign policy is the problem, that our wealth, enlightenment, and success are oppressing the rest of the world. And this explains why Obama is apologizing to other nations. This is why he is targeting the youth vote after this anti-American curriculum is sneaking its way into the schools in America. This is also why the American Civil Liberties Union quickly represents Muslims while refusing to defend Christians who practice their faith in public schools. But friends, the good news is you've never lost your right.
Wow, that's incredible. Now we have fake media also.
Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Now, friends, as the amnesty debate rages on, one has to ask, why is it so important for this criminal administration to give a license to illegals to come into America?
The president today taking executive action here without consulting Congress. He will cease deportations of certain illegal immigrants.
Well, most Americans are under the delusion that people favor this administration. The real question is, who exactly supports Barack Hussein Obama and his administration?
CNN ORC poll numbers that are just coming in, they paint a pretty grim picture for President Obama.
So let's go down memory lane and recollect just who, so you've been told, gives him all of this support. If you remember correctly, CNN's president resigned not too long ago due to the low viewership it received. Maybe this will shed some light as to why he resigned. Amber Lyon, former news anchor for CNN, said she was ordered to report fake stories, delete unfriendly stories adverse to the Obama administration, and construct stories in specific manners while working for the left-wing network. Lyon said CNN is paid by U.S. and foreign governments for reporting on some events and not reporting on others.
See, you're losing your liberty through his fake media because he owns the media, so he only reports things that benefits him.
And of course, you surely haven't forgotten the massive voter fraud that took place in the United States in the last election.
Of recent elections in the state shows that 953 dead people voted. And in some cases, votes apparently were cast in the names of the deceased who had been dead for as long as 6 years.
In effect, Obama's support only comes from those who are at war with our constitutional republic and those who are at war with God, who gave us our rights to establish our constitutional republic, Exodus 18:21. Within the United States, Obama enjoys support from the homosexuals, abortionists, and communists.
All these executive orders are an assault on your liberty. Obama Executive Orders 13603 authorizes slavery in the U.S. Obama continues abuse of executive orders. Obama's executive order facilitates martial law. Limbaugh and Levin blast dictator Obama's executive order threats. Obama signs executive order raising the minimum wage. April 2014 New World Order Executive Orders. President Obama has stripped away USA citizens of any rights. Obama eyeing executive order to stop deportations. Obama signs executive order on Ukraine declaring Russia a threat to national security when he's a threat to national security himself. Barack Obama criticizes executive orders in 2007 and 2008, but then he does it himself. He signs all kinds of them when he gets into office. Republicans furious Obama will use executive orders they forced him to use. What a joke. Obama 07 lies. I will overturn Bush's executive orders that encroach on civil liberties. Boy, what a joke. Everything he says is just power grab, sweeping policy takeover. Obama uses executive order for climate change. Obama's executive order, a prelude to martial law and suspension of elections. That was a possibility, but he didn't do it so far. Obama's executive order, a preparation for war with Iran. Obama signs 23 executive orders and refers to alternative media. So it just goes on and on and on. President Obama executive order, censorship on speech. I read all 23 executive orders Obama did on gun control. Senator Rand Paul, Obama's executive orders are abuse of power. And it just goes on and on and on. Out of control executive orders, Obama avows many more in 2014. Man, there's no way I could even read them all. This is all losing your liberty right here.
Executive Order 10990 allows the government to take over all modes of transportation and control the highways and seaports. 10995 allows the government to seize and control the communications media. 10997 allows the government to take over all electrical power, gas, petroleum, fuels, and minerals. 10998 allows the government to seize all means of transportation, including personal cars, trucks, or vehicles of any kind. 10999 allows the government to take over all food resources and farms. Executive Order 11000 allows the government to mobilize civilians into work brigades under government supervision. 11001 allows the government to take over all health, education, and welfare functions. 11002 designates the Postmaster General to operate a national registration of all persons. 11003 allows the government to take over all airports and aircraft, including commercial aircraft. 11004 allows the Housing and Finance Authority to relocate communities, build new housing with public funds, and designate areas to be abandoned. 11005 allows the government to take over railroads, inland waterways, and public storage facilities. 11921 gives the Federal Emergency Preparedness Agency the authority to take over all banking institutions in the United States. As we've just seen, there are laws on the books that make it perfectly legal for the United States government to suspend citizens' rights. However, if we look to the founding documents for guidance, we'll find that it's not our government that bestows these rights upon us in the first place. According to the founders, all of our rights are unalienable. So what does that mean? According to Webster's dictionary, the definition of unalienable is not capable of being transferred to another, or in layman's terms, non-negotiable, not to be forfeited, or birthright. How much plainer can it possibly be? Our founding documents tell us that these rights cannot be transferred or taken away by anyone, not by any person, not by any government. So if the government passes laws that violate the Constitution, how can they enforce those bad laws? It's very simple. We'd let them do it.
On this past March 16th, President Obama, in an unprecedented move coming out of the Oval Office, as if all of the moves coming out of the Oval Office haven't been unprecedented in the last few months of 2012. Anyhow, President Obama has now signed into legislation an executive order that not only empowers the presidency, but the secretaries which he has designated of the federal government to commandeer the resources of the United States of America. When I say our federal government now has the power to commandeer the resources of the USA, I'm talking about food, water, transportation, energy, every infrastructure that falls within the territory of the domestic territory of our country is now within the free reign of our government to take over. And this includes the assets and the entities within the private sector. And if that's not terrifying enough, the horror story begins here. Because within that executive order, there's also cloudy and dark language that makes provisions for our federal government not only to force American citizens into the military within times of peace and in times of war, but also to harness Americans for labor. Did you hear what I just said? Our government, our president and his secretaries, they now have the power to harness Americans to use for labor. And all of this is dealing with not only times of war, but also of times of peace. In Section 201 of this executive order dealing with priorities and allocation authorities, it speaks of the fact that the president has the ability to designate this power to various secretaries within the federal government. Now, here is the list of the secretaries and the responsibilities that have been given into their hands due to this executive order. The Secretary of Agriculture with respect to food resources, food resource facilities, livestock resources, veterinary resources, plant health resources, and the domestic distribution of farm equipment and commercial fertilizer. The Secretary of Energy with respect to all forms of energy. The Secretary of Health and Human Services with respect to health resources. The Secretary of Transportation with respect to all forms of civil transportation. The Secretary of Defense with respect to water resources. And the Secretary of Commerce with respect to all other materials, services, and facilities, including construction materials. Ladies and gentlemen, the only plausible reason that an individual has not to have their attention arrested by the information that I just shared with you, for an individual not to be alarmed or concerned by the info that I just shared with you, is number one, you have no breath in your lungs. Or number two, you're certified brain dead. Either or will be a sufficient excuse.
Well, there you go. You don't have liberty. What you have is a dictator. So, do or die. I can't list all the ways that you're losing your liberties through political correctness. Stand up for your liberty or lose it. Not just the U.S., but all around the world. Do or die.